Hello, who's there? Hello. Well, the chat is working. I can see your comment. Hello, Sarah. Can you see the board properly, or is the image mirrored? Is it reverse or is it fine? Tell me. Hi, Nicolas. No, it's fine. Okay, because for me it's mirrored, so you need to tell me if there's a problem. How's the sound and the image? Image is not really good, I think, but the sound is good. Right. Okay, so hi everyone. So it's not the perfect situation for me to teach you because I cannot see you, cannot hear you. Hello. But we'll try to go around. I'm not keeping you long. I hope to keep this be just under an hour or so. I'd like to go back to the 4 essays that you've done during last week's mock exam. All right. So again, stop me if you have any question. Stop me if you cannot see the board because it's not very clear. There's the light reflecting on the board. So feel free to stop me anytime and I'll try to be as clear as possible. Okay. So, ready? So first, let's dive in one of the essays from the ECRICOM subject. All right, and let's start with: should we give up flying to protect the planet? So, what I would like to do here is not to do a proper and full correction of the essay, but I would like simply to discuss a few ideas, and then we'll try to see what we keep for the introduction and what we do to organize the ideas. All right. And then, if you'd like to do it again, if you already chose this essay, or if you want to do it, to write the introduction or the full essay and send it to me via email, of course you can. Okay. So first, question for you in the chat. What's your first impression of that subject? What would you say if you were asked the question, should we give up flying? Is it important? What do you think? And of course, why? Why should we give up flying, or why should we continue to use air travel? Yes, the environmental impact. What is wrong with planes compared to the trains, buses, boats, etc.? What's the problem with the planes? Pollution, flying increases contamination. Yes, yes. Yes, greenhouse gas emission. Right. If we take the global annual emission of carbon, do you know what air travel represents in percentage? Do you have any guess, any idea? In percentage, what proportion of carbon emissions is air travel, plane travel? Uh, in 1 year, the global emissions of carbon due to plane. No, no, not 45, not 60, not 75. It's for the moment. For the moment, it's 2%. 2% of global. It's only 2%, but with the demography, the global population, and because of the trend in behaviors, the scientists think that in 2050 it will represent 16%. Okay, 16% in 2050. So, one of the reasons we could decide to give up using planes, traveling by plane, is that there's a trend that should lead us to a disaster. Okay, it it is taking more and more importance in the world. Okay, so yes, the environmental impact is really, really big, and it's really important. Right. Um, if we don't take the plane, what are the solutions? What could we do instead? Boats, yes, boats is a problem. But it depends. What kind of boats? Because one of the biggest emitters of carbon in the world and of pollution in general are uh, containers, boats used to deliver your products from a continent to another. So yes, Ilal, you're right. Boats are more polluting. So, for example, if you, as an individual, not as a professional, not as a product sold by a company, uh, could you take the boat to go to the Americas, for example, to New York? Could you do that? And do you have examples of people who did recently use a boat to travel to the Atlantic, across the Atlantic? Right, I see the electric planes, innovation, more ecological vehicles. Yes, Nathan. Nathan, you're saying Greta Thunberg. Yes, could you be more specific? Could you explain exactly what she did, why, when? Waiting just for, yes, reduce contamination again. Travel in groups, yes. That's a change in behaviors. Yeah. No, nothing on Greta Thunberg sailing across, taking the boat across the Atlantic Ocean. Let me put the. Oh, yes, David. She had a meeting for the G20, but she didn't want to take the plane. Yes, exactly. So she decided instead, because, yes, exactly, Artie, she decided to use a boat to sail. You understand? Sail. Can you see it? SAIL, sail, is to travel by boat. And so she chose a zero emissions boat to cross the Atlantic Ocean to go to New York and attend, yes, Bao, and attend a climate conference and then to sail back to Europe. Uh, yes, to be an example, to set an example for the people, to show that it's possible. Greta Thunberg, she is from Sweden. She's Swedish. In Sweden, it is a trend. They are making up words, inventing words to talk about flying shame, to be ashamed of using planes. And some politicians, especially in the Green Party, some politicians are trying to um, impose new legislation to restrict the number, the amount, the quantity of flights that one person can take every year to one. Okay. And if you need to use the plane twice in during the year, you should pay a tax, a fine. Okay. So, yes, let's go back to the idea. Should we give up flying? Yes, because of the giant and increasing environmental impact. Yes, but we need innovation, so we need to invest in research and development, R&D, and we need to collectively change our behaviors. Right. So I agree with that. But sometimes you need. Christelle, you're saying, no, I will use airplanes. Yes, sometimes we need to use planes because we need to go fast, to travel far and fast. So, what is important to keep in mind? And we'll try to end with this essay right now. What is important to keep in mind? Yes. Is it easy to give up flying? Is it easy and is it fast to come up with scientific innovation? Increase tourism to do what? No, it's not. No. Yes. How can we substitute aircraft? Careful, Coco. Auxiliaire, sujet, verb. How can we substitute aircraft with something else? That's a good question. Yes. Became, yes, indispensable today. Yeah. Yeah. Not easy. We needed to travel. All right. Yes, of course, we are in the context of globalization. It's a big business, so there are many, many financial interests now to defend. So, for example, did you hear? Maybe you heard the in the news recently, uh, because of the situation today, because of the pandemic, most planes are empty. No one, or almost no one is taking the plane to travel because of the restrictions, but the planes are still flying. Did you hear why? And did you understand why? Yes or no? Yes. So could you explain that? Sorry, I'm trying to be raisable. It's an obligation. The company has to keep their planes even if there's nobody. Yes, but why exactly? What is at stake? What is the risk if they stop flying? Um, yes, it's probably expensive. Be careful. EXPEN, not A. Expansive with an A means that it expands, it grows. Expensive with an E means it costs a lot of money. But it's not the reason. No, Samir, it's not about difficulties for the engines, for the machines. The firms may collapse. Yes, in a way. Well, actually, let me give you the solution so we can move on. The reason is, you know, the air traffic is very well organized. You cannot make a plane take off uh, without a schedule, without precise time. Yes, Manon, to keep their place in the airport, that's exactly that. Um, to have the guarantee that a company, a plane company, travel company, can have uh, some spots to park the planes inside the airport and to keep the number of flights, the amount of flights that they have every day. They must travel a lot in the previous year. So if they stop flying now, they lose their guarantee to have as many flights as the previous year uh, in the next year. Do I make myself clear? Do you understand that? If they don't fly now, they can't fly as much next year. So they need to keep flying, even with the empty planes. So that's ridiculous, of course. That's absolutely ridiculous. Yes, not to lose their slots, not to lose their slots in the airport. Yes. Right. So that's the kind of examples that you need, okay? Because you gave me three reasons not to, sorry, three reasons to give up flying, to get rid of flying, to abandon flying. So first, environmental impact. That's your idea. That's how you start your paragraph. Now, when you have to give an example, you can talk about the 2% now and the 16% in 2015. Um, when you speak about innovation, how do you justify that with an example? Innovation. You mentioned electric planes. Do you think that's the future of traveling? Can you give me examples of companies or innovators or investors? It's difficult to think of an idea, but jetpack. Yes. Yeah, it's not a collective mode of transportation though. So is it the future? I don't know. It's fun. It's fun. Airbus. Uh yes, you're right. The A350. Yes. Good. That's a good idea. All right. Hyperloop, yes. Who is developing the Hyperloop or who is talking about developing the Hyperloop? Famous investor in science, famous engineer. The same working on SpaceX. Yes, Elon Musk. Sorry, I think there's a delay. I'm just seeing your comment. You probably posted it a few seconds ago. Yes, Elon Musk could also create other, yes, other means of transportation. Let me write up the new words. Means, the means of transportation. Right. Um, so, okay, you could give up. You could give examples. That's good. You can exemplify innovation. That's good. Concerning the change in behavior, so some people, some individuals are privately and individually deciding to give up flying. Usually, not it's not the only decision that these people make. Usually it's part of a more global, more comprehensive, okay, do you understand comprehensive, more global change of attitude. So what other behavioral change uh, could you give as examples of a global trend? Not concerning pollution or transportation specifically, but other change in daily life. Yes, I'm not talking about a global trend, meaning a trend in the world, although it could be. But I mean, when an individual decides that he or she will stop using planes, it's not an isolated decision. Okay, usually it goes along other decisions in daily life. Let me give you an example. For example, it's very likely, okay, probable, it's very likely that the same person will also try to reduce or give up meat consumption and become vegetarian or vegan, for example. Okay, so that's part of a more comprehensive change in behaviors. So yes, Artie, reducing the consumption of meat, meat consumption, yes, meat consuming. So yes, that could be uh, veganism and the defense of animal rights also. Yes. Yes, eating local. Be careful with the word, with how do you translate consommation. It's not a word, there's no exact equivalent to consommation in English, okay? Uh, you could use consuming because you've got the verb consume and you can add ing. So, for example, the consuming society or consumer society, pour la société de consommation. But I discourage you to use this expression. Okay. So, Manon, for example, you can say eating local. You could eat local products. Okay. You need to phrase the sentence differently. Okay. To organize the words differently. So, yes, eating local products, yes. Not using chemical products, that's difficult, but yes, or at least stop using plastic or reduce plastic. That's part of the no plastic or zero zero waste. Okay, you try not to throw anything away. For example, you store your food in glass jars, okay, instead of having them in plastic and cardboard. You don't understand the link between the question of behavior and the subject. Yes, what we are doing here would not exactly be a part in the development. Maybe that's something that you could write in the conclusion. In the conclusion, if you want to think more globally, more generally, okay, or if you had to discuss this topic in a call, for example, okay, where you need to go beyond the subject. So what I'm saying here is that usually it's not an isolated decision. If you decide to stop flying to protect the planet, if you decide to stop flying, to stop using planes, it's very likely that you will stop or reduce your the way you will change the way you eat, for example, or you will change the way you buy food or store food at your place. Okay, David, you can, yes, boycott companies like Amazon and big GAFAM, you know. So that's something that you would probably do in a conclusion in an essay. Okay, trying to go beyond, placing that in a more comprehensive, a bigger context. Do you understand, Melina? It's not exactly. I know we're not exactly answering the question. Should we give up playing? It's a way to go beyond that. I hope you understand what I'm doing right here. Yes. But anyway, one of the things that I would like to do as well is try to answer another question. If we say, should we stop flying? Maybe the first question that we should ask is, why do we fly? So yes, you said, I think that was Christelle, you said, because it's a globalized world and it's against isolation. Okay, it's a way to open up to the world. You talked about tourism, for example. So if we talk about this tourism and the way to see the world, what exactly in the recent years and yes, what in the recent years encouraged people to fly quite regularly on a very regular basis? What changed in the way the companies, the flight companies, the flying companies uh, work, and what kind of solution do they offer? Diplomacy, study to save time, yes, yes, of course. But for, let's say, for the middle class, why did it become easier to take the plane for the middle class? Can fly for science to learn about the world. Time is money. Yes, yes, David. The development. Yes, that's Move. I think Crystal Team, because there was this recent development of low cost companies, low cost fly. So it's easier. It's much easier to go to the airport and to go away for the weekend, or for a week that you have if you have a week off work. Okay, so that's a problem. That's a problem for you, for us, because more and more people have access um, to to planes. So more and more people can go abroad. Remember, abroad. So it's it's easy to understand why people are using the planes, and why this will to take the plane to travel is stronger than the will to respect the planet. So we go back to the change of behaviors again. We need to think in groups, to think collectively, and change the behaviors. I think we've got someone here. Right. Let me block this person. I don't know who it is. Right. Um, he's banned. Don't worry. It should be a private. Only you have the link. Okay, it's not a public. I think. Try to make it private. All right. We have some new friends here. It should be private. Is it not? Anyway, um, so that's something that you should keep in mind. You should keep in mind a few examples uh, to make your ideas more. Yeah, seems not. So keep in mind this: the development of low cost companies. It's the same for pollution in general. If you think of developing countries in the world, it's difficult to tell them to not emit carbon. Okay, to not use coal, because they have the right to to fast economic growth. And it's the same if you say to more and more people, yes, now finally you can easily travel with a plane. It's hard then to tell them, yes, you have the freedom to do it, but you must do it um, r- thinking and respecting the planet. So you must control yourself. That's difficult. Do you understand? And do you have any questions? But I think we've seen a lot of things here. Do you have other ideas to answer this question? I'm waiting for your answers, but in the meantime, I think this example of Greta Thunberg using a boat to sail across the Atlantic oceans to go to climate conferences could be a good opening for the introduction. I think that's the best thing you could come up with. Okay, and then if you have to deal with a question like this, should we stop doing something? Should we get rid of something, as we did with the billionaires? The first question that you must ask yourselves is, why does it exist in the first place? Why are we flying? Okay, because flying is now possible for everyone, because it's a good way to see the world. What is not the most important issue? Yes, I can repeat the opening. So, a few minutes ago, you were and we were discussing the fact that in November 2019, 2019, Greta Thunberg, who is Swedish and she's living in Sweden. She wanted to speak at this climate conference in New York City, and she decided that she could not use a plane. Okay, she could not fly because she wanted to raise awareness. Okay, to raise awareness, to make people aware, to raise awareness about um, about the fact that flying is a big problem for the planet in terms of pollution. So she decided that the best way to cross the Atlantic Ocean to and fro was to go with a boat. I think it took her 15 days or maybe 3 weeks to travel. Okay, and but she did not pollute or not much. Okay, do you understand this example? How do you write traverser en bateau? Yes, sail is the only voyager en bateau. If you want to add traverser, you sail across the ocean. Okay, sail across the ocean. Sarah, can you explain what is more important? You mean there are more important things to do now for the planet than stopping using the plane? Is that is that it? Simple solution for everyone. Yes, but to do what? To do what exactly? Okay, right. So yes, that could be one of your ideas in the conclusion. You could say that yes, it's important. Okay, don't uh, reject this idea because it was a question asked uh, by Ecricom or by me in in this instance. But so don't reject the idea. But yes, you can conclude by saying that there are more important things. But you need to say what is more important. What is the priority, or what are the priorities? Yes, industries, cars, right? Okay, that could be a good conclusion. That could be a good conclusion. But saying that before the conclusion could mean or could be understood as I don't want to answer this question, and that's a problem. So focus on this question for the introduction and the two parts, and then in conclusion say it's not the priority. Yes, that's good. You can walk across the street. Yes, we can't walk to go to another country. Yes, well, it depends, but yes, usually. Right. Um, do you have any question on this? Giving a few seconds. In the meantime, I will erase the boards. But do you have any question on this? Vocabulary or ideas, examples? No? No? All right. So now I would like very quickly to discuss two essays at once. Two at once. It was the second choice for ECRICOM. Is it wise to elect young politicians? Yes, Moob, you're right. Interesting. So, is it wise to elect young politicians? And oh, Ilal, that's for how can you do the opening? Well, state the facts, énoncer des faits. Okay, state some facts. So you can just begin saying that in November 2019, young activist Greta Thunberg decided to sail across the Atlantic Ocean to go to a climate conference in New York City. Okay, and can I read? Yes, the opening. That's one proposition. That's not the only solution. I think that was the m- most the best here, the most relevant. So let me start again. In November 2019, young activist Greta Thunberg decided to sail across the Atlantic Ocean to attend a climate conference in New York City instead of using planes. She wanted to set an example for all the people following her in the world. Okay, and you can explain that. You need to keep it short, but you can explain that. Uh, yes, state, énoncer, state, state. Okay, then you can say that flying, indeed, flying is very polluting, etc. Okay, and then ask your question. State the facts. State. Énoncer les faits. Dire les faits. Dire les choses. Okay. Oh, before I move to another subject, I wanted to give you a good expression that you will understand. One of the reasons we fly is because of tourism, and we want to see how it's like abroad in other countries or continents. And we want to go far. We want to go on the other side of the planet instead of just taking the bus or the train or the bike to see the region, uh, our region. And the reason for that is because we think that the grass is greener. Because we think that the grass is greener elsewhere. You understand what it means? Elsewhere, somewhere else. Okay, we think the grass is greener. We have the same expression in French. That's something interesting that you can use in many, many contexts. The grass is greener. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why we want to see how it's like in other countries, in other cultures, right? Are we done with the first subject or not? Just tell me. Yes. Giving you a few seconds. Right, so sorry. Two subjects at once, deux sujets en même temps. The second possible choice for Ericom was, is it wise to elect young politicians? And if you chose to do an LV exam, the question was, are politicians too old to make the right decisions about the future of the planet. So the question here was about being young or being older or more experienced in politics today. Um, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this issue because many interesting ideas were given in the correction I sent you for the previous essay. Is ageism the new racism? So I hope you've read this correction or these ideas for ageism is the new racism. And if you have any questions, because you didn't ask any question on WhatsApp, so if you have questions now, please ask them. Did you understand what I meant in this? Is ageism the new racism? Do you have questions? And do you see how we can link that to these two questions uh, about the age of politicians? No reaction, no question, no nothing. You don't really understand the subject. Which one? Is ageism the new racism? This one? How can we translate ageism? Trick question. That's not easy. Yes, ageism is the racism towards old people. Yes, it's the rejection of some people because they are old, okay, or just older than you, for example. Okay, so usually when you've got an English word ending in ism, ism, it's very close to the word that we use in French. So ageism is a very recent word, and in French you could say agisme. That's not really beautiful. It's not that pretty in English too, but neither. But ageism, l'agisme. This is the opposite of what we call in French le jeunisme. This idea that you need to be young to be successful and to be accepted by society. Okay. Yes, they are too old school. Exactly. Exactly. So I think that's an interesting question. I think it is, and I think that the two new questions here, so I repeat them, is it wise to elect young politicians? And are politicians too old to make the right decisions about the planet? I think it's quite important to discuss this with you because in the last years there are many inexperienced personalities who became president. Of course, Trump is one of them. We can't really talk about racism, but affirmative. Um, yes, it's not racism, but it's the new racism. It means that before um, society tended to reject people because of their origin or their skin color, and that now the new criterion, le nouveau critère, the new criterion is the age. If you are too old, you are disconnected from reality and you don't have the right to express yourself. Okay, this is ageism. So I think it's trendy because, as I said, many young politicians are appearing. Um, Donald Trump is not young, he's over the age of 70, but he was inexperienced in politics. And for example, in the Democratic campaign, one of the one of the biggest candidates, even if he abandoned now, was Pete Buttigieg. Have you heard of him, Pete Buttigieg? He was like 30, 35, I think, maybe, and he was young. And so one of the biggest critics against him was that he was too young. In New Zealand, the Prime Minister of New Zealand is also a young woman, Jacinda Ardern. You should check her name, Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister, PM of New Zealand. So there are more and more new politicians, elected or not, but uh, appearing on the political field. And it's easy for, yes, people with more experience or for knowledge. Yes, Macron in France is the same. It's easy for people with experience and with years and years of being senators, of being congressmen, for example. It's easy for them to say, I have the experience, I know what I'm doing, I'm a professional politician. Okay, so you don't have this experience, you should not be elected, you should not be in charge. But as I said, as I wrote it on the correction I gave you, if you take a look at who who voted in favor of Brexit 4 years ago, it's mostly old British people, and the youngest are voting for or voted for the Remain, to remain in the EU. If we take a look at today's primary election in the Democratic Party between Sanders and Biden, um, the majority of people under the age of 30, between 21 and 30, even 40, I guess, are large majority are voting in favor of Bernie Sanders, while large majority of people over the age of 40 are voting for Joe Biden. And because people under 40 don't go to vote during the elections, Biden is winning. Okay, even it if every Democratic elector went to vote, it should be more 50-50, more tied. Okay, so yes, he's the youngest president. Well, president, yes, but if you take a look at Finland, Finland has elected a very, very young woman to be prime minister. So I think he's, yes, you're right, the youngest president, but not the youngest head of state, not the youngest head of government. So, did you have any question on that, or is it clear? Since May? I can't remember what I've said. Um, what do you want to know exactly, Ilan? Pretty clear. Clear like the rock water. We said in English, it is crystal clear. Okay. What's wrong, Bo? Oh, you okay? I understand. You were mocking David. It is crystal clear. Okay. If you see this during a version, you can translate it is crystal clear by c'est clair comme de l'eau de roche. No, crystal clear, perfect. Right. So what I'm suggesting, because time is running out now. Oh, the problem with Theresa May. I, I didn't talk about Theresa May. Um, I've just talked about Brexit. I've said that if we, okay, a majority of British people voted for Brexit, in favor of Brexit. But if we take a look at the specifics of the results of the referendum, if we look at the numbers, you can see that old people, senior citizens, voted for Brexit, and the young British people voted to remain in the European Union. And but the problem is that senior citizens, and not only senior citizens, but people over the age of 40, they go to vote, while your generation don't, or not as much. Okay, so um, there is a majority of older people in any country now in Europe, and they go to vote, and they tend to vote for conservative issues, okay, like, or radical issues, but uh, radical ideas proposed by suggested by the Conservative Party. So they went to vote for Brexit, and the people, the supporters of the Remain, the Remainers, they were very active politically, demonstrating in the streets or on social networks, but they didn't go and vote. That's the problem. That's one of the reasons why there's a Brexit. Okay, is it clear? Right, crystal clear. Okay, so let's move on to the last essay that you could choose. If you done a Jena subject, your question was: should governments guarantee a universal basic income? I will write the subject in a minute on the board, but as you can see, um, for the previous subject, when we discussed should we give up flying, usually I'll tell you that you need to give a definition of the terms in the second or third sentence of your introduction. It's not really possible to do that with should we give up flying, because you don't want to give a definition of flying. Okay, we all know what it means. That's usually the case for écrit subjects. You don't have to really define the terms. But for a subject like Jena, they are usually more specific, and you need to define the terms. So in that case, I gave you a short explanation in the question. I gave you a definition of universal basic income, but that's not something that will be in the question if you when you will have the exam. So question is, should we guarantee a universal basic income? So first, while I'm writing the question on the board, in the chat, please give me a definition of what a universal basic income is. And then we'll discuss the advantages and the downsides, okay? Short. Um, a short definition, because it is part of the introduction, so you should keep it very short. Okay, the introduction should be 50 to 60 words, Okay, approximately. So definition should be one sentence. It's an income given to all of the citizens above the age of 18. Yes. And what is important to say, to add to this definition is there is no condition. No condition. Okay. It is universal. That's a minimum income, yes, that you could complement if you work, if you have a job. Okay. But whether you have a job or not, you receive every month a certain amount of money from the government. It is guaranteed. Okay. So it is an income. It is a basic income because, well, what it means is that it's a base. It's the basis. It's a minimum, as artist said. Yes. So that's something that you get. And then you can add something else. That's why it's basic. That's the minimum. You can have more money if you work, if you have a job. Okay. If you think that it is not enough money, that you need more for any reason, you can work, have a job, and then receive more money. Okay. You can add some incomes, you can add revenues if you work, right? And it is universal because, yes, it's for everyone. It's for everyone. Um, okay. Everyone over the age of 18. Yes. Kenza, no. Well, it is. It may be important. It depends, of course. I believe that if you have a good opening and you have. Oh yes, sorry. A question. Yes, question should be in the introduction. You should try to find a way to rephrase the question, not keep this question. You should try to make it a bit different, but it's not difficult because once you've given definitions for the terms, then you just need to replace the words in the question with other words, the words you gave in definitions. So, for example, should governments guarantee a universal basic income? If it's universal, it's for everyone. Okay, so the question is, should everyone get money if guaranteed, or okay, you need to work on that. But let's do the definitions first, and we get to the question in a minute. Okay. Basics shows this is for subsistence. Yes, true, Christian. That's true. Very true. So, you've probably heard of this idea before. Okay, it's something that came up a few years ago. Some economists, like the French economist Thomas Piketty, was one of the first, I think, one of the first economists to suggest this idea. Not the first, but one of the first. So yes, the qualified people won't accept this because they want high income equal to their skills. Yes, it's true. It's true. It's true. But you've got everyone receives money every month. Okay, and then if you have um, if you have great skills, you have a great salary. Okay, great an income from your work, and it will be a big complementary income. And if you don't have a high skilled job, you will get another income, complementary income, that will be not so there will be inequalities between the people. But the reasons, and that's one of the first idea, the reasons behind the first reason behind this decision is that it will reduce inequalities. Okay, if everyone gets money, you have less inequalities. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why some people defend the idea. So let's check the pros and the cons. Okay, you agree? Good. So the pros is what, or the cons are what? Give me your ideas. If everyone receives a basic income every month, everyone gets money, so there is a risk on inflation. Yes. Yes, that's one of the main problems here. Yeah, inflation. Reduce inequalities. Yes, why? Yes, it is social measure, yes. Why would it reduce inequalities? What do you think? Access to culture, yes, true. That could be part of the reducing of inequalities. People should stop to work. Well, yes. The propositions in from political parties, propositions. I think, for example, in France, it was for the last presidential election. Thomas Piketty was an advisor to Benoît Hamon, okay, one of the socialist candidates, and I think that he wanted to give 500 euros for each citizen. So you have to keep on working. Okay, usually it's not enough. It's not enough. But yeah, if you keep thinking about this, Sarah, um, thinking about working, having a job, um, it could make something easier. Can you guess what? If you are certain, if you know 100% that you will get money, what can you do as an entrepreneur or as a worker, for example? Try to think about that. We'll come back to this idea in a minute. Some people can feel marginalized. Yes, yes. Um, you can keep a social life. Yes, you're not marginalized because you don't have a job. It's true. So no marginalizing, no marginalization. Yes. Access to the same goods. Yes, true, true. When there's a new technological product, a new technological device released, some people can buy two iPhone 12 the same day, and some cannot buy an iPhone 6, for example. You can invest, yes. You can reduce inequalities because everybody starts with the same basic income and the formation represent the difference. Yes, exactly, Melina. Yeah. Nathan, the income could be used for consuming. Consequently, it would contribute to the economic growth of the country. Yes, of course. If if you've got money, well, you can spend money, and if you spend money, um, the country knows a period of economical growth, and if the country, sorry, makes money, then the country can redistribute money to the people. So that's good. Yeah, of course. Um, Something else, Sarah. If you think of if you are an entrepreneur or if you have a worker, and you have the guarantee that you will make money, that you will earn money at the end of the month, you can take a few risks. Like what? Yes, what kind of risks? I'm writing your idea, Anita. No, no idea. Or maybe it's the delay. Yeah, invest. W- Well, the idea expressed by the people championing uh, universal basic income is yes, you know you will receive an income. You will have the money at the end of the month. So you can invest. Yes, you can if you are a worker, exactly. If you are a worker, you can more easily quit your job, okay? Because you know, sorry, there's a light. You can quit your job and decide to look for another one, okay? And you're not afraid of this period of unemployment. You have a security, okay? It's quite safe to give up your job, to look for a new one, or um how do you say, to build your own company, to start your business, okay? So the idea usually for the champions of universal basic income is that it creates uh, more flexibility, okay, in the job market. It is a trap of inactivity, yes. It's expensive for the firms. What is expensive for the firms, Manon? Competitive issue with other countries. Yes. Yeah, true. So I'm writing the idea. The idea is to develop flexibility. Flexibility on the job market. So don't forget to find downsides to this. Why flexibility? Because the thing is, it is, well, the idea, yeah, okay, right. People will not hesitate before quitting their job and trying to find another and starting a new business. So yes, there's more fluidity, flexibility in the on the job market, right? But the problems, competitive issue with other countries is a good idea. Yes, it only work. Uh, who finance this? Who finances? Yes, that's a good question. Well, the thing is, it is meant. It costs a lot for the government. Yes, the thing is, the idea is to reduce all the benefits that the citizens get. For example, um, you would not. Um, uh, for example, in France, the social security system would be completely transformed. Okay, because with this income, this basic income, you could pay for a lot of your medical bills. Okay, the, instead of being paid by the state, for the moment, the state is paying for these medical bills, and the state would give you money. Sorry, would give you money, and so you can pay for these bills. So it would be money used for social issues, for your social issues. So the government would spend less money less money on social programs, okay, like pensions for the unemployed, and also in terms of social security. And you could finance your unemployment. You could finance your medical bills. Okay, do you understand how it works? Yes, it will increase the public debt. Yes, because you give money to the people. But to compensate, to bring balance to the budget, the people defending universal basic income are saying that the state will spend less money on, as I said, on pensions, okay, for the unemployed or for the senior citizens. Okay, so you spend less money on social programs, and this money that you save, you can redistribute this money to the people directly. And so the people can rely on themselves. Okay, do you understand self-reliance from the verb to rely? To rely on something, c'est pouvoir compter sur quelqu'un, sur quelque chose, ou alors dépendre. C'est à la fois compter sur quelque chose et dépendre de quelque chose. Donc là, self-reliance, you rely on yourself. So that's the autonomy. That's a synonym for independence and autonomy. All right. So if you get money, you become autonomous. And if you are autonomous financially, you can pay for your unemployment period of unemployment. You can pay for your medical bills. So it is compensated, right? Now the problem, if you don't have any questions, any question, the problems here, the downside. Well, if you try to think um, um, about this idea in an American context or British context, becomes a bit difficult to imagine that it would be possible. Why? And that's the moment of history, political history. Simple. Um, I'll keep it simple. In the 1990s, in 1993 and 1994, in the UK, there was the election of a Labour politician. It was the first time it was not a conservative prime minister since 1979. Okay, because then there was Margaret Thatcher and John Major as prime ministers, so conservative prime ministers. So in 1993 comes Tony Blair. You, you've probably heard of Tony Blair. He was a Labour, but he was elected because he tried to conciliate uh, the idea of socialism. He's a Labour politician, so socialism with the market economy. Market economics. So he was what we call now social liberalism, if you want to. Okay, and so he created an ideology that we call the New Labour. Old Labour was very linked to trade unions. Do you understand trade unions? trade unions, les syndicats, and the welfare state, l'État-providence. So that was these were two important things for the old labor, and beginning in 1993, the new labor decided to give up the trade unions and to reject the idea of the objective of a welfare state. And so since then, you can say that there is no more socialism and communism in the UK. It's almost disappeared. Okay, so it's very, very unlikely that such a measure would uh, would be implemented by a, a political party in the UK. All right. So that's the state of the left in the UK. In the USA now, the things are a bit different because communism never existed as a political force. It was, of course, rejected in the 1960s and during the entirety of the Cold War. But now, with the likes of Bernie Sanders, this idea is becoming more and more popular, right? Uh, Bernie Sanders wants to implement a universal basic income, and that's one of the reasons is not appreciated and not defended by lots and lots of people in the Democratic Party. Okay, so that's too radical for the U.S. Public, probably too radical. Okay. What is the name of the people? Yes, so the prime minister was Tony Blair was the first, and then there was George Brown. George Brown was the next prime minister. Tony Blair and George Brown. So Tony Blair was elected in the 1990s. I think it was 1993, and you can say that this ideology lasted until 10 years ago. Yeah, right. So should governments guarantee a universal basic income? First, you need to explain what it is, what could be good, what could be bad. Okay, that's important. But the complete question was justify or justify with examples from the English-speaking world, and that's where it becomes more complicated because that's not something that most English-speaking countries could accept easily, especially in the UK. Okay. So my my suggestion would be to first start with all the advantages, self-reliance, flexibility on the job market, reducing inequalities, all right, in the first part. And then in the second part, narrow it down to the English speaking world by saying that uh, in the US, it's a suggestion from Bernie Sanders, but we don't know yet. But it's not really likely that he becomes the candidate from the Democratic Party now. And in the UK, it's almost impossible because between the 1990s and 2010, the Labour Party completely rejected socialism. Okay, and now there was a return to socialism with Jeremy Corbyn. Okay, who was the candidate for the Labour Party in the December election, but he lost by a large margin. So he's socialist ideas were not popular at all. So it's very improbable that we can see a universal basic income in the UK in the following years. And in the US, socialist ideas, radical ideas like this one, are being suggested, but again, not popular, not popular enough to make a good presidential candidate. All right. So that's more likely something that we'll see in a European country if it ever exists. Do you have any question? Or did you all fall asleep listening to me? No? Clear? Yes, the introducing sentence. You need to find an example. Um, the thing is, as you can see, we'll mostly discuss ideas, more like more than people or statistics, because it's difficult to find and to have in mind statistics about that. So my idea, my suggestion would be to open with Bernie Sanders, because um, he's the one advocating. Do you understand advocate? He's the one advocating for this measure in the USA. He advocates for universal basic income. He champions universal basic income. So it's strange because a few years ago, if you would ask someone, in which country do you think it will appear first, it will be implemented first, uh, most people would have said, I don't know, but I'm sure it will not be in the USA. Okay, it was one of these socialist ideas that they reject automatically. Okay, automatically. But now he is an important politician. Okay, um, the new generation of Democrats in the USA are following him and his ideas, and they all defend universal basic income. So um, in most of European countries, socialism is disappearing. And in the USA, it is appearing on the contrary. So you should start with Bernie Sanders and with the fact that it's one of saying that one of his suggestion and one of these ideas, his ideas, is to implement a universal basic income. And you should say that uh, that's one of his big ideas, very controversial in the USA, but anywhere in the world, and then define it, saying that it's an income for anyone over the age of 18, etc. What you've said, and then rephrase the question: should governments guarantee a universal basic income? Well, you could rephrase it saying, will it be necessary for the people to get money independently from their jobs? Because one of the things we didn't say here when we were talking about jobs is that researchers predict that in the near future, most jobs will be uh, automatized. We are going to be replaced by robots. So what will we do? If we are replaced by robots, we lose our jobs. If we don't have a job, it will be harder and harder to get money. because the state will not be able to pay for the unemployment benefits for everyone. So if there is universal basic income, you reduce the anxiety, the fear of the future, of the fear of being replaced by robots, and you can start innovating. You can start doing something new, starting a business, thinking of how you could live your life differently, etc. Okay, so a good question could be, um, why would it be necessary for a person to receive um, a guaranteed uh, amount of money every month, okay, or something like this? Why would it be necessary? And then you can list all the reasons, the pros and the cons in your development. You understand? My question, my suggestion, yeah. So the thing is, when you've got a question beginning with should, you are asked a question: do we do this or do we not? Okay. So the question is, well, if I need to choose yes or no, universal basic income or not, uh, I need to focus on the reasons. Why would it be important? Why would it be necessary? And then you can say, well, it will be necessary because in the future we won't have a job. So because there are robots now, so we need money. We need money even if we don't work. Okay, but it will lead to inflation, and then you can start discussing. So my question would be, why would it be necessary to receive money um, independently from your job? So you can say from my job, but uh, from our job. If you don't want to say my or our because it's too personal, it's the opinion, so it should be the conclusion. You can always replace by once. Once is the thing you say when you don't want to say my, your, his, etc. When you want to keep it impersonal. So why would it be necessary to receive money independently from one's job? That's a suggestion. Okay, that's not the only possible question that you can ask. But again, the question is, should we or should we not do something? If yes, why? If no, why? Okay, what are the reasons for this suggestion, for this idea? What's what's the train of thoughts? What is the reasoning behind this idea? And that's the question that you can ask. All right. Okay. A few questions, maybe, and then we'll stop it for today. All right. So a few questions about this or anything else. We have to rephrase, not reformulate, rephrase the initial question. Yes, yes, exactly. For the question, if you get something like "should we do this or not," when you rephrase the question, it should begin differently. Not should we? Okay, should we do this? What are the reasons for that? Okay, that's one easy way to do it. Um, should we give up flying? Why do we fly? Where? what is one's interest? Okay, that's a good way to rephrase. For the conclusion, yes, you have to give your opinion, but be careful with that. Um, what I would advise you, my advice, never begin a conclusion with in conclusion or to conclude. Use other link words like all in all, or to put it in a nutshell, or to my mind, or something like that. Okay, so it doesn't look like or sound like something very, I don't know, formal. Okay, it should be natural. So all in all, that's good. All in all, for example, to put it in a nutshell, and then you can give your opinion. Okay, you need to make a choice. What do you think? Okay, when you've done all this, the pros, the cons, what's your opinion there? All right. Ah, une chose aussi, je dis en français, c'est de la méthode, c'est important, quel que soit le type de sujet. Euh, je, à la fin quand on vous pose une question sur un sujet, une question d'essai, on vous demande d'indiquer le nombre de mots à la fin. Ça, c'est important. Par contre, vous avez tendance, pour, compter, pour savoir où vous en êtes, à noter à côté, voilà, j'en ai écrit 50, 50, 50, 50 pour ne pas oublier où vous en êtes en comptant vos mots. Vous pouvez le faire évidemment, mais faites-le au crayon papier et surtout effacez-le. Parce que si vous mettez à chaque fois la petite borne des 50 mots, 50 mots, 50 mots, 50 mots, ça donne l'impression que vous ne répondez que votre objectif, c'est simplement d'arriver au bon nombre de mots. Alors que votre objectif, c'est d'arriver à la réponse à cette question, votre réponse. Donc, si vous voulez, notez-vous dans la marge discrètement 50, 50, 50, mais effacez-le à la fin. Ça doit vraiment disparaître. De la même manière, si vous notez juste avec 2 petits, slash, voilà, j'ai fait 50 mots, après ce mot-là, enlevez toutes ces marques-là. Il faut que ça soit une copie naturelle. Il ne faut pas que ça fasse copie d'étudiant. Il faut que ça fasse une réponse à une question, tout simplement. Donc, toutes ces marques de mots 50, 50, 50, faites-les disparaître de vos copies, c'est important. Est-ce que je vais poster la vidéo sur cette chaîne? Oui, je peux, oui, oui, je peux la poster, ouais. Je prendrai pas le temps de faire un montage, d'accord? Je laisserai telle quelle, je vais la poster, ouais. Je vais essayer de faire ça. In a sentence, when there is everybody or people. Alors, people est un mot pluriel pour quand il traduit les gens, des gens, donc pas de S. C'est une troisième personne, mais du pluriel, donc pas de S. Quand on dit everybody, every, ça indique un mot singulier. Everybody en un mot ou en deux, every student, etc., etc. Donc, on considère avec every ou each, on considère chaque individu séparément. Donc, oui, on met un S. OK. Everybody is present. Ouais, donc, on voit bien que c'est la troisième personne du singulier. Donc, everybody talks. Tout le monde parle. OK. Mais si c'est people, non, c'est du pluriel, donc pas de S au présent. D'autres questions? Ou on a fait le tour? On est déjà à 1h40. C'est déjà pas mal. On essaiera de faire, une autre vidéo, alors peut-être pas demain, parce que demain j'ai déjà une vidéo avec, camarades de première année. On essaiera de faire, de la traduction, correction de traduction en début de semaine prochaine. On verra sur WhatsApp, peut-être ce sera plus simple, en communiquant. Ce sera plus simple pour fixer un horaire. Parce que vous avez beaucoup de maths. J'imagine que vous avez beaucoup d'autres, travail dans les autres matières, mais on va essayer de trouver encore un créneau d'1 heure et demie, 2 heures comme ça, pour faire de la correction de traduction, si ça vous va. OK? Donc, réfléchissez-y, on peut en discuter sur le WhatsApp et on décidera. Ça serait bien de faire ça lundi ou mardi, par exemple. Right? If you've got any question, structures lesson, grammar and conjugation? Yeah, well, et what quand on fera du thème ou de la version, forcément, on s'arrêtera sur des points de grammaire, donc vous inquiétez pas, des points de structure. OK? Mais ce ne sera pas de grandes leçons sur un point, ce sera plutôt des petites choses au fur et à mesure. OK? Bon, je vous laisse digérer tout ça. On discute donc du prochain rendez-vous. J'aimerais bien que ce soit lundi ou mardi pour faire de la traduction et donc de la grammaire et de la conjugaison, bien sûr. Et puis si vous avez des questions, si vous avez des travaux à me rendre, c'est par mail. Des questions, c'est sur le WhatsApp. Ou d'ailleurs, si j'arrive à bien poster cette vidéo sur YouTube, vous pouvez laisser des questions aussi en dessous. Right, yeah, thank you. Thank you for being there, for asking questions and answering questions. And goodbye. Crystal clear.